I remember a Sunday afternoon in late summer of 2001. There were about 30 of us gathered in a really sweet outdoor space. It was a large deck overlooking one of the Minneapolis lakes. We were still pretty hinky about COVID, so it felt good to gather outside without our masks, to see each other face to face. This was a book group of the First Unitarian Society Social Justice Team, and we were discussing Jane Goodall's recent publication of The Book of Hope. I knew some, but not much, about Dr. Goodall's work. She was the chimpanzee lady. But as I read the book and I got to know more about her, it was easy to see why she was so inspiring to so many people. So this week, 3 ideas come together. We bless our animals, we mourn the death and celebrate the life of Jane Goodall, and we enter our monthly theme of cultivating compassion, and it seems to me they flow perfectly together. I love that when the liturgical year just comes together like so. So I want to start with that third idea, compassion. What does compassion really mean? Another great activist who recently died, Joanna Macy, said this: compassion boils down to not being afraid of the suffering of your world or of yourself, not being afraid of the suffering of the world or of yourself. It involves being open to what you're feeling about that suffering, whether it's grief or rage or fear or overwhelm, and being brave enough to experience it. You can't heal something you're afraid to get near. Compassion is what impels us to act for the sake of the larger whole. Or put more accurately, and I love this, it is the whole acting through you, through me. It is what impels us to act for the whole, or the whole acting through us. So compassion literally means to suffer with. If you've ever been in love and known passion, you know that it is to suffer. Compassion means to suffer with. Sometimes I find it hard to separate empathy and compassion. Here's a way to think about it. Empathy is feeling someone else's emotions with them. And compassion is the desire to alleviate their suffering. So empathy is feeling with each other, and compassion is a desire to do something about it. Empathy is inward focused, an emotional connection. And compassion has an outward focused response that motivates action to help. That com is with, to suffer with. Empathy is the foundation of compassion, but it moves beyond just understanding and sharing an emotion to wanting to make a positive difference. Now, when we have our joys and sorrows time, and we lift up the things that we're concerned for, it can feel sometimes heavy. And I talk about we expand our heart opening to be able to hold the world. But you know, compassion fatigue is a thing. It's a real thing. And certainly, well, the first time I heard about it really was during COVID time from healthcare workers. Healthcare workers talked a lot about compassion fatigue. Signs of compassion fatigue may be like emotional exhaustion and feelings of sadness or helplessness, the lack of empathy, irritability, difficulty concentrating, physical symptoms like headaches or stomach aches. And if you watch the news these days, and I know you do, we can really get some compassion fatigue for all that feels heavy and wrong, and the people, the animals, the planet, which are under assault There is a kind of recurring trauma that we experience, and it's pretty easy to check out because we just can't hold anymore. That's real, and I just want to name that as real. And I want to name that our animal companions can often be quite a help with that. Whatever else is happening in the world, my dog Memphis needs a walk and needs to be fed and needs to be played with. Whatever else is happening, and needs a cuddle. Whatever else is happening, that can help regulate us. Our animal companions can help regulate us. There are some things that we can do to help with compassion fatigue. We establish healthy boundaries. We try not to overwork. We try not to let too much dump on us before we get some relief from it. We engage in stress-reducing activities, good sleep, water, relaxation techniques like meditation or yoga. We get support from others. We come be a part of a community so we don't hold it alone. We take breaks from the news. We take breaks from what is weighing us down, especially if you are a long-term caregiver. Respite is so important. And I'll tell you that our congregational care team, our caring network, if you need respite care, please let us know, and we'll see what we can do to help get that for you. Lots of other ways we can do that, but knowing that compassion is so important to us, and we can have that sense of too much. Another way that is helpful to me of thinking how to deal with the pain of the world is to, as Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. And Jane Goodall was an example, a bright light of a helper, someone who saw the pain of the world and framed it in a way that can be considered hopeful. Born Valerie Jane Morris Goodall in London on April 3rd, 1934, Dame Jane Goodall was a scientist, a conservationist, and a peacemaker known for her revolutionary chimpanzee studies. Her lifelong passion, she certainly suffered for it and found great joy, for animals and for Africa led her to Gombe in Tanzania in 1960. She was just 26 years old, and she immersed herself in the chimpanzee habitat to study that behavior. Her 1960 discovery that chimpanzees use tools changed the scientific world and redefined the human-animal relationship. As much as anything, her work with primates helped us understand that we too are animals. Animals do things that we also do. Right? We also are animals. In her book of hope, oh, this book is wonderful. How many of you have encountered Jane Goodall's book of hope? Yes, lovely. It's a dialogue with Douglas Abrams exploring how to maintain hope and take action in the face of a global crisis like climate change, like the pandemic, and political upheaval. She has 4 reasons for hope. And these just feel like a really good organizing tool for how we're not just kind of wishful thinking for the future, but can actually sink into these. The amazing human intellect, the resilience of nature, the power of young people, and the indomitable human spirit. The amazing human intellect, the resilience of nature, the power of young people, and the indomitable human spirit. It defines hope as a vision for the future that requires tangible action. It shares anecdotes from Jane Goodall's life and emphasizes the crucial role of youth and community-based action in creating a healthier world. Some of you have seen the photos of elderly Jane Goodall and young Greta Thunberg together. I just adore those photos of the wisdom of these two women, one at close to the end of her life and one at the beginning. Just a great tender thing there. She wrote this: "Of course, a great deal of our onslaught on Mother Nature is not really lack of intelligence, but lack of compassion for future generations and the health of the planet. Sheer selfish greed for short-term benefits to increase wealth and power of individuals, corporations, and governments. The rest is due to thoughtlessness, lack of education, and poverty. In other words, there seems to be a disconnect between our clever brain, our amazing human intellect, doesn't always work like we want it to, a disconnect between our clever brain and our compassionate heart. True wisdom requires thinking both with our head and understanding with our heart. True wisdom requires thinking with our head and understanding with our heart." There's a kind of psychological therapy called DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy. Are you familiar with this? Do you know DBT? Boy, it's some good stuff, I'm telling you. And that's the dialectic between our head and our heart. Not always reason, only logic, not only emotion, but the meeting of the two. That's the dialectic of dialectic behavior therapy. And I think Jane Goodall gives us this really good example of this true wisdom. Yes, we need progress in the world. Yes, we need to feed people, and sometimes the way we feed people is not always as good for the planet as it could be. So we have to think in both ways, not always with the logic, but also with understanding and compassion. I love the way she says this, compassion for future generations. That's powerful. So all God's critters, that's us, and all the critters that aren't in the room here with us, that's more. All God's critters got a place in the choir. We're going to sing that in a little while, not for a little while. I sort of tipped it off there, didn't I, Reggie? Yeah. And our understanding and interconnectedness of our interconnectedness calls us to compassion for all creatures in the world, even the mosquitoes, even the squirrels. I don't care for squirrels. Even the slithery ones, even the snakes. I know my mom is watching and she can't stand a snake, so I'm going to quit talking about it, Mom. Compassion for all the critters. Now, sometimes I hear people say, well, I'm preaching to the choir. Sometimes you hear, if you've got a justice sermon going on, I'm preaching to the choir. You know what? Choirs have discipline. Choirs work together in an amazing interdependence. They listen, they rely on each other. So if all God's critters got a place in the choir, even the ones we don't like, especially the humans we don't like. Jane Goodall said that her favorite animal is not a primate, not a chimpanzee or other primate, because they're too much like humans. And some humans aren't very nice, and some primates aren't very nice. She said that. Her favorite animal is a dog, she said. But if we've all got a place in the choir, if we've all got a place in the whole, and compassion is us embodying the whole and the whole embodying us, then it's important to think about not just the big animals that we see, I recently learned the phrase charismatic megafauna. You know what charismatic megafauna is. That's the large, popular, well-known animals like pandas and elephants and tigers that are often used in conservation efforts to attract public funding and support for saving an endangered species. And so it can bring in money, but it risks diverting attention from other less popular species that may be equally important to our ecosystem. I think the point that I'm making is the choir is an ecosystem. If all God's critters, that means all of us, every human being and every other winged, snaky, scaly, feathered, furry thing, winged thing, we all are in this interdependent ecosystem together, and we increase our capacity, our moral and spiritual evolution and revolution come from our being able to expand and hold it all together. So I would say that we started the blessing of the animals with Saint Francis of Assisi, but this picture came across my desk this week, and we could beatify Saint Jane Goodall. If only we can overcome cruelty to human and to animal with love and compassion, we shall stand at the threshold of a new era in human, moral, and spiritual revolution. Let's sing All God's Critters.